Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Elvis's cousin, Donna Presley. Love you, Donna.
Love you. Hello, Denmark.
So let's start somewhere else, Donna.
All right.
What do you think about our little house here in Randers?
I love it. I was telling him yesterday, I flew on 3 planes, 15 and a half hours, and ended right back where I started. I mean, who knew? Who else can do that? I think it's fabulous. I mean, you got me? I'm technologically challenged, people.
There's a funny echo here.
Yeah. Can you hear it now? Are we okay? Ah, that's better.
I think we're okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So again, tell us how great we are.
Oh, you're fabulous. Yeah, Henrik and I have been friends for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And it's such a joy to be back here with him and with all of you. I'm thrilled to death about the house. I mean, it's wonderful that, because there's not everybody can make it to the U.S. to see the actual Graceland. But we have Graceland here. Who knew? That's awesome. I love it.
Thank
you did a
you.
great job, and I'm thrilled for you.
Thank you, Donna. Appreciate that. I don't know how to kick this off, though.
Yeah.
We need to talk about a family member and your relationship with him.
Yeah.
How should we kick it off? Well, how do you feel?
Well, I guess to kind of let people know who I am and how I'm related.
Sure.
My mom, Nash, and Elvis's father, Vernon, were brother and sister. She was the baby of the family. There were 5 siblings. And from the time I was 10 years old, I spent all my summers at Graceland. I would leave school a couple of weeks early, come to Graceland, stay there, and then go back home maybe a week before school started. A lot of times Elvis was there. Sometimes he wasn't. He might be on tour or doing a film. But anytime he was home, it was a madhouse. It was chaos. It was loads and loads of fun because when he did something, everybody did it. If he went to Liberty Land, everybody went. If he went to the movies, everybody went. If he bought cars, everybody got one. Only thing, I missed out. I was not there that night. But no, I mean, that was just Elvis. He knew he was blessed by God to do amazing things. And he said, I would be remiss in what God has given me and the opportunities he's allowed me if I didn't share it with my family and my friends. And that's just the way Elvis was. He was so caring and loving, and all the good and wonderful things that you've ever heard about him, they're all true. Because you couldn't ask for a better human being, a better child of God, a better entertainer, a better friend, a better cousin. Because, I mean, he treated me like a little sister. He called me Donnie. As you know, Elvis has nicknames for everybody, and mine was Donnie. And so he and my grandmother both called me Donnie. And, you know, he would come in to the house, and he'd be sitting in the house, and I'd walk in the back door, and, you know, we'd chit-chat for a little bit, and then I'd go head on to Grandma's room. And then, you know, we'd have family dinners, just like everybody else. People think that we lived a whole different life from ordinary families. We were an ordinary family, but he was an extraordinary man, and he was blessed by God to do extraordinary things, and he touched people all over the world. And here we are, 40 years or so and plus after his death, and we're still here, everybody all together for the love of this man, because he touched each and every one of us. And it's kind of true what Judy said. You were like in your own bubble when you had a relationship or when you met Elvis or spent any time with Elvis. Even if there were 40 people there, each person walked away with a unique experience and a whole different memory and a whole different idea, because he had that special connection that he could just talk to you. When he talked to you, when he was face to face with you, he could see right through you. He saw your needs, he saw your wants, and he was there to help. And that's just the way he felt, is I'm here to help. And he was I can't say enough about the love and adoration that he gave for his family. We kept him grounded. You know, he had his friends and so forth. But it's like my mom said, in a way, he lived in a gilded cage. because he couldn't go out in the daytime. He had to do everything at night. He's had to stay home a lot of times. And so we always had a good time at Graceland. We'd shoot fireworks. In the middle of the night, you might be awakened with him riding go-karts or golf carts. I remember let me back up a little bit. As I said, I spent all my summers there. But when I was 17 years old, my mother was missing a close relationship with her family because we lived in another state. We lived in Missouri. So my mom went to Uncle Vernon, and she said, I'd really like for Earl to work for Elvis and that's my dad, because I miss my family. I want to be closer. So my dad started working for Elvis in 1967 when I was 17. So we moved from Missouri to the Circle G Ranch, which he bought in 1967. And we lived there on the ranch until 1969 when he sold the ranch. At that time, we moved into the mobile home that he and Priscilla spent their honeymoon in. And it was up in you would call it the back garden area. We call it the backyard in the South. So we lived in the backyard at Graceland until I married in 1971. And then my parents lived there until they opened Graceland after Elvis's death in 1982. So it was always something going on, always lots of fun. When we were on the ranch, he loved to have a good time. So I remember one year, in March especially, it snowed like 15 inches. So what does Elvis do? He gets a tractor, he puts a long chain on it, and puts boats behind it, the little canoes like thing, because there was a lake on the ranch and for fishing. Well, he decided he would multi-purpose those. So he put a long chain on it, pulled it, and everybody got in the boats, and he pulled them around in the snow. Sometimes he went a little fast, and you could kind of slide around and some fell out, but that's okay. We all had a good time. And so it was just one of those things, that you just did. It was just loads of fun. We always had, something going on. And then we'd have big family cookouts and dinners. And we'd just sit around and talk and laugh and tell stories and have a good time. And if he wanted to shoot fireworks, if it was June or July or December or whenever, he would go buy thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars worth of fireworks. And then he thought it was a really good idea to shoot them at each other. Don't try this at home, folks, because you can nearly burn down Graceland, which he almost did like 3 times. Had the fire department out there, and you could get hurt. I remember one particular night, we were all shooting fireworks out in the backyard at Graceland. So he had the girls all sit down, and we watched as he and the other guys, my dad included, shot the Roman candles at each other. So he picks up some Roman candles, winds a twine around them, lights it, and sticks it in my dad's brand new coat jacket. Burned it clean off of him. And he thought that was hilarious. So my dad, in turn, shoots Roman candle at him, right across the neck, right here. And it burned him pretty badly, so he had to delay filming for several weeks while he healed. But hey, that was just fun. That was him. He was a practical joker. He loved to have a good time. If he bought a new horse and he wanted my grandmother to see it, that was okay. She couldn't come outside. He'd just take it in. In through the kitchen, in through the music room, not music room, but jungle room, up the stairs, down, over the platform, into my grandmother's bedroom. I want you to see the horse. So that's what she did. Well, the horse didn't realize it wasn't outside.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that was a big mess. But he thought that was funny too. But, we were just extremely close, and he and my grandmother were very, very close. My grandmother and I were very close, and I remember one night at the dinner table, we were all sitting around, and she said, I have X amount of grandchildren and X amount of great-grandchildren, but to be honest, Elvis and Donnie are my favorites. My cousin Patsy, Vester's daughter, said, and what are we, chopped liver? She said, It made Elvis and I feel really good, but that was just the way it was. So when I moved out in 1971 and I got married. And then 1973, I had my first child. And I took him to Graceland. And I had him laying on the bed. He was about 3 months old. So Elvis and Linda Thompson come in, walk into Grandma's bedroom. And he leans over and he's talking to Stacy, playing with the baby. So he asked me, can I pick him up? Well, of course you can. So he picks Stacy up and he sits down in the chair and he's bouncing him on his knee. Well, I had a little hat on Stacy because it had real fine hair and it stuck straight up, just like he stuck his finger in a light socket. So the hat falls off. Elvis sees the hair sticking straight up and he thinks that's absolutely hilarious. So he asked me, said, what's his name? I said, it's Stacy Aaron. And he stopped bouncing him. And he just stopped and looked at me. And he said, like I didn't know this, that's my name. Yeah, I know. I named him after you. His eyes filled with tears and just started streaming down his face. You named him after me? I said, I did. He sat there a minute and he said, okay, how you spell it? Aaron. That's right. So if you ever hear any controversy about Elvis's name, how it's spelled, he spelled it Aaron, irregardless of how anybody else spelled it. So now you know the true story. So after that, he said, well, I tell you what, Stacy. He looked down at my 3-month-old child. Tell you what, Stacy, when you turn 18, you come see old cuz. I'll take care of you. You go to work for me. That's how he looked at it. Your family, you're my relative, you're 3 months old, but hey, in 18 years, you can come see me and I'll put you to work. That was just his mentality. He wanted family and friends around him, and he wanted to take care of all of us. So, that was just the kind of man that he was. My mom was an Assembly of God minister, and of course, we had been raised Assembly of God. We, great Southern values, a strong faith in God, a strong faith in prayer. And that was the way we believed, and that's the way we lived. And Elvis was no different. He read voraciously. He read all the different languages. He wanted to study them. He wanted to know what they were about. But his basic values were of the same faith, just good old Southern Assembly of God faith, very strong faith. And as he said, he never wanted to get kicked out of heaven for a technicality. So he wanted to make sure he knew all of them. But that was the way he was. And so when my mom became a minister, he wanted to help with the ministry. So he bought 4 acres of ground in Walls, Mississippi. He helped her put a double-wide mobile home or trailer, whatever you want to say, on it. He decided my mother needed a car. Well, the previous night he had been giving away Continental Lincolns. And he gave my dad a Lincoln. So he called my mom over the next night upstairs, because he did that often. He would call her over. He'd take her upstairs, wrap her in a blanket, because he kept his room like a meat locker. It was so cold. So it's just, like this. But he wrapped her in a blanket, and they would often, talk about the Bible. And she was sort of a mentor to him. She was one of these people. She was not a yes person. She told you what she really thought and how she felt, what she believed about it, especially if there was a scripture that they each had a different idea about. So anyway, he would wrap her up in the blanket and they would discuss the Bible. Well, so this one particular night, he called her over, took her upstairs, and they were talking. He said, Aunt Nash, I want you to come with me. I'm going to buy you a car. She said, honey, you gave me a car last night. Yeah. So he said, no, that was a family car. Okay. So he said, this is for your ministry. This is just strictly for you to use in your ministry, to go visit, people in nursing homes and to go back and forth to church and that sort of thing. So he takes her to Pontiac Place. And there's this sea of Pontiacs. And he takes her hand. He said, okay, Aunt Nash, pick one. She said, honey, I can't do that. I don't feel right about taking another car. You gave me one last night. He said, I know, but that was a family car. This is special. She said, well, you pick one. Okay. So he walks around the car lot, and he walks over to this baby blue Grand Prix Pontiac with a white Landau top. He puts his hand on it. He calls my mother over. He opens the door, has her sit down in it. He kneels down beside her. He takes her hand, and he says a prayer. And he said, this is the one. So he took her home in that car that night. Well, then he decided she needs a piano. Okay, so you've all heard about the gold leaf piano that Priscilla gave Elvis for their first anniversary? That was the one. So he tells, you're going to have the gold piano. Okay. So my dad was actually the head of maintenance at Graceland. So if Elvis needed anything done, my dad took care of it. Well, my dad he'd been raised up, in the Depression and sort of thing. So, hey, if you didn't have to spend a penny, you didn't spend a penny. If you could do it yourself, you do it yourself. So my dad gets the idea, I can move this piano. So he wraps the gold piano, takes the legs off, puts this gold piano in these heavy moving blankets, and puts the piano on a front end loader. Now, everybody know what that is? It's got this. It's a large piece of machinery that has this huge bucket on it, and you don't use that for moving pianos. But my dad thought he could do that, so he did it. So he's going down. This is a visual, people. He wraps it in this blanket, this big gold massive piano, puts it on the front end of the loader, and carries it down the hill, out the gate, turns left going down towards Mississippi, down Elvis Presley Boulevard, carries it into Walls, Mississippi, up on the hill where the little church is. Now what? How do you get it in the church? So my dad studies it and looks at it. He called, and my mom comes up there. He says, we can't get it in. And she says, well, can't you take down the wall? Because, my dad was a jack of all trades. He could do just about anything because he had to. Take the wall out. I could do that, Nash, but it still won't fit in the church because it's a massive piano, and this was just a little double-wide trailer. Well, now what do I do? So he backs the front end loader out, back down the hill, turns left on the Elvis Presley Boulevard, and right back up to Graceland, where it started. We can't get it in. It won't fit, and even if we do take the wall down and we get it in, it's still too big. It won't fit. Takes up half the church. So my mother says, what do I do? So she goes over to Graceland. She goes upstairs. Elvis, we have a problem. Okay, Aunt Nash, what's your problem? We can't get the piano in the church. Okay. Do you mind if I trade it? Aunt Nash, I don't care what you do with it. I gave it to you. If you want to burn it, it's your piano. So now get this. This wasn't the most, what you call, financial genius idea that my mom had. But money meant nothing to her either. So she calls a music store in downtown Memphis, has the owner come out and look at the gold piano. Can I trade this for a spin-it piano? A spin-it piano is just a little small piano, upright. She trades it even. Yeah. They take the gold piano gladly and bring this little spin-it piano for her church. Well, she's thrilled. And I'm sitting there thinking, OMG. She just gave away a baby grand gold leaf piano that was owned by Elvis for a spin-it piano.
Can I just say something?
Sure.
April 2011.
Yes.
We opened Memphis Mansion, called Graceland Randers at the time.
Yeah.
A guy from Nashville calls us 2 days after the opening, asks us if we would like to buy one of Elvis's pianos. And we said, yeah, that's interesting. And what piano is it? It's the gold leaf. Okay. How much do you want for it? He wanted $5 million. So I don't know how much the other piano was worth, but somebody down the line
made
a lot of money, and now it's actually on display at Hard Rock Cafe somewhere in Florida.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Anyway, continue.
Needless did I say, it was not the best business decision. Yeah, so to think that could have been my inheritance.
Yeah, we could have been partners now, right?
So true. But anyway, that was just my mom. I mean, that was the way she felt and believed, and it wasn't important about the cost. It was just the fact that she was going to be able to preach the gospel.
Sure.
Yeah, so at any rate, and that's
Sorry.
what, no, that was, I mean, that's part of history, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
But, that was Elvis. Any way that he could help. Money meant nothing to Elvis except what he could do for other people. And that is the honest to God's truth. He never once thought about himself. He only thought about what he could do for you. And I want you to know, Elvis touched each and every one of you in a special way. And I realize that. But I want you to know something. You touched him just as much. When he felt tired, you gave him energy. When he felt like he was running on empty, you filled him up. And for that, I applaud you.
Thank you.
You kept him going, and I thank you for that. But that was Elvis.
Yeah. Should we take a few, if the audience have a few questions?
Sure.
Or is
Yeah,
something-
absolutely.
is
Yeah,
that
go right
okay?
ahead. Yeah, certainly.
So now's your chance to ask Elvis's cousin, Donna Presley, a question. Anybody? Don't
Okay.
be shy.
Yeah, I don't
yeah,
bite.
Carsten has one.
Did you ever get any big gifts?
I received monetary gifts. He would buy a lot of times for Christmas and so forth. He would buy gift cards to a exclusive dress shop or something like that and give those out. I never did receive a car. My sister did, but unless you were there when you were given, he was giving them away. It was just kind of one of those opportunities missed.
No rings, no necklaces?
I mean, yeah, I did get a few rings and necklaces, yeah. But, it's nothing like huge, a lot of money, yeah. But we didn't expect that, yeah.
Cool. Any other questions? Yeah?
Yes,
How is it to be a president?
awesome.
How is it to be a Presley? His name is Kloster. You should ask him, how is it to be a Kloster?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it really is. It's such an honor to be a part of this wonderful family. And, it goes way back to, my parents and my grandparents and great-grandparents. It was just an amazing, amazing family. Elvis made it famous, but it was a wonderful, loving, and caring family with great values. And as we all know, Elvis was a great believer in faith and in the Lord. I remember, one time when I was 18, I was spending the night at Graceland, and it was rare that you got a just one-on-one opportunity with Elvis, because there was always other family members and friends around, and that's the way he liked it. But this particular night, I was in my grandmother's room, and my grandmother had gone back out to the kitchen for something, and Elvis walks in, and he sits down in front of my chair on the floor, cross-legged, and he's asking me about what I'm doing, what I'm studying in school, what I plan to do when I graduate, who am I dating, and that sort of thing. So I was telling him, my aspiration. And he said, Donnie, I want you to remember one thing. You can accomplish anything in life that you want to if you remember these things. Have faith in God, have faith in yourself, hard work, and never let anyone tell you that you can't accomplish your dreams, because I'm living proof that you can. So.
And we have a question from Sweden.
Yes. Hi.
Do you visit Tupelo nowadays?
Occasionally, yes. Excuse me. As a matter of fact, I was here this past week. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, so occasionally I do. Yeah. And another thing, is it not great that not only do we have Graceland here, we've got the Tupelo house here too?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It makes it easy
It
traveling,
does,
right?
yeah.
You know.
One-stop shopping. I mean, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Genius.
Oh, can you say that again?
Genius.
Thank you, Donna. Any other questions before I get too big-headed, more big-headed than I am? Yeah,
Yes.
sure.
Did you ever take up singing like Elvis did?
Well, I have done it, yeah, but I try to leave that mostly to the professionals. But yes, I have done some of it, yes.
Sure. Wonderful. Anybody else? Yeah, sorry. Tracy?
Jeg siger lidt dansk.
Ja, det gør du.
Hvad skete der dengang, at de ligesom åbnede Graceland? Blev de spurgt om de ville flytte ud, eller blev de bare skubbet ud? Hvad
Okay. The question was, when they decided to open Graceland, first of all, I'm not sure you lived at Graceland when they opened it to the public.
No, I
in
had already
April.
moved into
You
my
had
own
already
home.
moved there. But the people who was living there, we know that Aunt Delta was still staying at the,
Yes.
living at the house, but was there other people who got kind of pushed out because now we're going to make it to an tourist
museum,
attraction?
yeah. So, I mean, well, it was no longer a family home. It was now a museum and a business. So my parents moved off the hill. They bought a home just maybe 10 minutes away. And, other family members, were moved out also, yeah.
Cool.
But Aunt Delta stayed in the house until she passed away.
Sure, Jan?
It said in the book that Elvis was born on the wrong side of the tracks. What's your opinion of that?
Well, I mean, everybody lived on the wrong side of the tracks in the South during those years, because most people were not financially stable, But yeah, I guess you could say that. I mean, the rich people would probably say that. Yes, yeah, true.
East Tupelo was kind of
the
poor.
Yeah, poor side of town. So yes,
I think
that
that's
is
what
true.
was meant with the wrong side.
Yeah,
of
the wrong side of the trade. He didn't have a lot of money.
Yeah, sure.
He was not really respected from the white people.
Well, probably, he had lots of friends and stuff that he hung out with and so forth. But in high school or in junior high or in just, grade school even, kids can be vicious and so forth, and you don't always like everybody. Elvis was different. He dressed different. He looked different. So, yeah, he got a lot of ribbing and what we call teasing, and so forth. Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Did you go to a lot of shows?
I did go to a lot of shows. Yeah, absolutely. Especially in the Memphis area. I never went to Vegas. I always wanted to, and I know all I had to say was, Elvis, I want to go to Vegas. And I kept meaning to, and I kept thinking, oh, well, next time. I didn't know I was going to run out of next times.